If you feel like homeschooling has become one gigantic battleground, I get it. I have definitely been there, but what I have discovered is that you don't have to overhaul your entire way of doing things just to cut the drama levels in your homeschool. Just a handful of small shifts honestly will cut 90% of the drama in your homeschool, at least. It may eliminate it altogether. But if you're thinking to yourself, Ashley, you're crazy, I need way more help than just a few little tricks, don't worry, I have something for you too. It's called the Homeschool Rescue Plan. This is my 5-day mini course that is free for you to start whenever you're ready, and it's going to help you basically triage your homeschool and get started in a way that is actually going to accomplish great things this year. The link for that is in the description box below. Shift number 1, waking early and streamlining the morning. Okay, now listen. If you have watched a few of my videos, you probably already know by now, I am not a morning person. You most likely will never hear me talking about the benefits of waking up at 4 a.m., probably not even 5 a.m. 6 a.m. is really where I'm talking about. And that might not seem early to you, but to me, it has been a battle. But it is a battle worth fighting. I have realized that when I drag myself out of bed at 6 a.m., the day just goes so much better. And if you have not done this yet, I would suggest don't try and go cold turkey. Do not start trying to wake up at 4 a.m., but start somewhere that feels just a little bit harder than where you're at right now. So I had to ease into this. I had to go from 7:30, like that's kind of embarrassing, but yeah, I slept until 7:30. Go from 7:30 until 7, and then when I was getting up at 7, then I pushed it to 6:45, and then 6:30, etc., until I got to 6. Listen, it's still hard for me. It is hard to get myself out of bed at 6 a.m. Part of it, I think, is I take progesterone pills in the evening, and those make you super duper drowsy. So part of it is that. But the other part is, this is just how I was created. I like a slow, easy start to the morning. But what I've realized is not being intentional about my mornings means that I lose a couple of hours, and I do not have time to lose a couple of hours. So I really have to get up, go ahead and get myself dressed, go downstairs. But what I've actually found is that I don't need to get up at 5 if I just do a little bit of prep work the night before to streamline my mornings. Now, what I mean by this is this. So I drink the same smoothie every morning for breakfast. What I do is I go ahead and prep the ingredients in the smoothie container and then just put it in the refrigerator, except for the frozen fruit. I add that right before I blend it because I like it to be kind of frozen. But that right there, that cuts about 10 minutes off of my normal routine, which is fantastic because every little bit that I can streamline helps me out in the morning when I'm not really functioning yet at full capacity. The other thing that I have found is I take a shower in the evening. When I can take a shower in the evening, that means all I need to do when I get up is brush my teeth, put a warm washcloth on my face, go ahead and put on my makeup, and run a brush through my hair, and of course get dressed. But this actually shaves a good 20 minutes, I'd say, off of my morning routine. So if I combine that with my smoothie, it's basically like I'm getting up at 5:30, but I'm still getting up at 6. Another thing that I like to do is, as much as I possibly can, prep breakfast the night before for the children. Sometimes I will do a breakfast casserole that I can then just put into the oven the next morning. Things like this. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but in the evening when I am thinking at full capacity, any of these things that I can do that are going to help my morning go more smoothly, it's super important and it gives you an edge. So I would just encourage you, if you're still a sleepyhead in the morning and you have and I used to think there is nothing wrong with this in the world. And it's not that this is not a moral failing, okay? But if we are trying to really use our days to their full capacity, then getting up and getting ahead of things a little bit early is honestly, it's so beneficial. So You'll probably never see me make a movie or a video about how to get up at 5 a.m. But 6 a.m. seems to be the sweet spot for me right now, and I'm really glad that I've started this habit. Shift number 2, stop talking and nagging. Okay, so I realized that I was basically narrating the entire day. Now, what does this look like? It means, come on, hurry up, finish up your math. You need to do your chores. Have you brushed your teeth yet? Have you done? So my mouth is running like this all day long, trying to stay behind kids and trying to make sure that everybody's doing the thing and everybody's staying focused. What this trains my children to do is to never take initiative and stay on task themselves. Okay, so this obviously is going to it's going to have a transition involved. You're not just going to decide to stop talking and nagging all day long and the next day have children who automatically stay on task. This is going to take some work, but this is work that is worth doing because your children need to learn to be self-governed people. They need to be able to do what is in front of them without someone constantly being like, hey, come on, let's get going. And you're not going to train them to do that if you're constantly behind them saying, hey, come on, let's get going. So what this means is, first, you have a conversation with your children and you say, okay, I realize that I have been doing this. I'm sorry, because this is not preparing you to be an adult. This is how we are going to do it from now on. I have a checklist for you every day. So you're going to know what it is that you must accomplish. And you're going to have things on there like tidy up your room and brush your teeth and, make your bed, and the chores that they have throughout the day. You're going to have those on the checklist, but you're also going to have the school tasks on there that you want them doing independently, or the order of tasks. You're going to have the checklist for them and you're going to say, this is yours. Get them a clipboard. I don't know why, but having a clipboard for your task somehow makes it more official. I love a good clipboard. My kids do too. So you're going to give them that and you're going to tell them, listen, I am going to tell you what I want you to do, and I'm not going to tell you again. If you fail to complete the task, then there will be consequences. And whatever those consequences are, that's going to depend on your family dynamic, the privileges that your children have, etc. So, don't ask me what to take away because it is family specific. If you need help in the discipline department, there is a book that I have been recommended. I will link that in the description box below for you. But also you need to come into this with the expectation that if you've done literally nothing to train your children in obedience, this is not going to just magically fix it. You have to teach them to obey first. So if you are starting from zero, check out that book and get started there, and then you can move into this whole stop nagging, etc. thing. But I will say that this really is a major tactic for eliminating drama in your home. If you are not constantly running around, squawking at everybody, reminding people to breathe, essentially, the drama is going to go way down. Shift number 3, checking work the same day. Okay, this hack, it's not really a hack. You just do it, right? This is part of being a homeschool mom. So let's not call it a hack. It's a shift. Like I said, it's a shift. Checking the work, and I'm talking mostly about math work here because for me personally, this is where I would get behind. And if you're not checking your child's work daily, then if they are not understanding a concept, but then they just continue to do it wrong, that is really going to set them back. So math is something that is so important to stay on top of, but all of the work, obviously. But making sure to check it and have them correct their work the same day that it is done is so helpful, because then, mom, you are not feeling like you are already behind the next day. So today for me is Monday. Tomorrow is Tuesday. So I've already checked the work for today. But if I had pushed that off until Tuesday morning, then not only would they have to do Tuesday's work, but they would have to go back and correct Monday's work. And that affects the whole day. That affects the flow of the day. It affects, how we're moving through our day. It's as if we're behind, and it's because we are. So if we can go ahead and check the work, make corrections that same day, This eliminates a lot of that pressure and feeling like you're always behind. Nobody likes to feel like they're behind. It is a wonderful feeling to be like, yeah, I'm on top of this. I'm doing really well. And that feeling, mom, is not just for you. Like, it is fantastic as a homeschool mom to be like, yeah, I'm getting it done. Like, we're doing this. We're doing the thing. But your children are also experiencing that. Your children do not want to feel behind, or at least they shouldn't. If they don't care, then that's another issue. But let's stay on top of things. And I don't know if you're noticing a trend yet, but so far all of these have to do with mom, with me. It all starts here. We control the drama level in the house. Just throwing that out there. So one of the best ways that I have found to make sure that I stay on top of all of the grading and the checking of papers is every afternoon, right after lunch, we have 1 hour of quiet reading time. During quiet reading time is when I get all of the checking of the work done. So that's the first thing I do. I'm sitting in my chair. I have my red pen. I have all of the the grading keys right there, and I go ahead and I check the work. When I'm all done checking the work, then the rest of the time I can read, which is fantastic. And it's just a nice quiet time. It's a nice way to reset and prepare for the afternoon's work. Right after quiet reading time is over, the children go ahead and they correct their mistakes and we move on. So that is how we have built this into our day. If you are just trying to, wing it and figure out a time along the way, inevitably it's going to be pushed off. And then it's not going to get done. And then you're going to be sitting there the next morning drinking your coffee, and you're going to be like, oh shoot, I can't enjoy my coffee because I've got to check all of this math. And then when your children come down, they have corrections to make and everybody feels behind. So anyway, scheduling time in your day and the same time every day, make it a non-negotiable. Another great place to do this would be if your child is participating in sports, and there's like a regular practice time or whatever, taking the work to correct on the sidelines. That's a fantastic way to do it. Just think of something that happens around the same time every day, and plug it in there. And if you don't have that time in your day, create a time in your day. Shift number 4, walking away instead of escalating. This is something that I had to learn the hard way. I actually had to learn all of these the hard way. That's kind of the way my personality is. I can't just necessarily take someone's word for it. I have to figure it out on my own. But walking away when I feel myself getting really frustrated instead of escalating this is foundational in preventing drama from cropping up. So, sometimes no matter how well planned our day is, or no matter how much we have reinforced discipline in the home, some days are just going to feel like a dumpster fire. It could be hormones, it could be sick kids, it could be, you didn't sleep well because the baby was up all night, whatever the external circumstance is. Sometimes your day is just going to feel a little bit out of control. These are the days that it's actually more important than ever to maintain your calm and your peace. Because mom, I'm telling you, the moment you start losing your temper, the moment you start snapping at your children, the moment that you start letting yourself get frustrated when the phonics lesson isn't going very well, or your son just cannot figure out how to write a cursive F, whatever it may be, the moment you let that frustration come out is the moment that your day is basically just shot. We have to maintain our own self-control, our internal self-control, and not allow ourselves to take our frustration out on the people around us. Because a frustrated teacher is not ever going to be able to pull the best work out of their students. And that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to pull the best out of our children, teach them to pull the best out of themselves. But if you are snipping at them, if you're yelling at them, if you have unrealistic expectations for the day, if you're taking everything personally, there is not going to be any learning happening. Well, there will be. It's just not the kind that you're intending. What you're teaching your children is that it's okay to let your emotions get the best of you, and it's okay to take your frustrations out on other people. And that is not what we want our children to learn. So if you feel your frustration level's rising, instead of just saying what you want to say or yelling, whatever it is, you need to walk away. You need to walk away. You need to take some deep calming breaths, take a drink of ice cold water, pray, and then go back in there and try again. Okay, because this is one of those areas that a lot of times we mothers will say, I can't understand why my child gets so mad, and, will like throw something, or will yell if he can't figure out a math problem, or will slam the door. Well, what is being displayed to these children when their mother gets frustrated? We always have to ask ourselves that. So this might not be a problem for you, but if it is, I would just encourage you to take a step outside of the room, do whatever you need to do to get yourself back under control, and then go back in that classroom and lead like a teacher. So I know that a lot of these probably sound pretty basic, and you're maybe thinking, Ashley, my homeschool is too far gone. Just having a better attitude is not going to be enough. We need a completely new structure. I've got you. The Homeschool Rescue Plan is designed to help you figure out where your gaps are, to help you streamline your schedule and get everything back on track in a helpful way. So if that is what you need, along with some of these attitude adjustments, feel free to check out the link in the description box. It's totally free. 5 days will get you where you need to be. Shift number 5, expect structure, not surprises. So one thing that I have learned that has been pivotal in the way that our homeschool day runs is that children thrive on structure, and they don't do so well when they don't know what is coming next. That's why all of these relaxed homeschools and carefree homeschool days are really not creating strong students or strong children. Children thrive on structure. We all thrive on structure. And so if you have a day that is patterned well with a sustainable rhythm that your children know will happen day after day after day, your days are just automatically going to be more drama-free. Now, of course, things pop up. Things happen that get the train off the rails. But that doesn't mean that the norm for your day can't and shouldn't be the same every single day. And what's really nice about this is once you have a solid rhythm in place day in and day out, when you do have those days where things have to run differently for whatever reason, for appointments, for illness, morning sickness, whatever it is, it's still easier to get the train back on the rails than if there's no railway at all. If you're just, let's take this as far as we possibly can. If you're just driving that train through a creek bed, you're not going to get very far. Okay, so lay down the rails. The rails are the structure, and then it's going to be so much easier to navigate whenever those surprises do crop up. Shift number 6, respond like the adult in the room. Okay, what does this mean, Ashley? And why are all of these aimed at me? Okay, so what this means is our children are not perfect little angels sent from heaven to make our life easier. Our children have to be taught, and they have to be trained, and they have to be formed. Their character has to be formed. So if your child is having a meltdown about something, don't just assume laziness or defiance. You need to get to the heart of the issue or the root of the issue. What is causing this meltdown? Is it because our child really does not understand long division and needs to be taught again? The answer to that question, by the way, is almost always yes. Is it that our child does not have his math facts down cold, and so he's having to figure every single step out and is like calculate it with fingers and toes, and it's taking him 10 minutes to do one long division problem? That might be the problem too. So you need to be a detective here. When our children are acting out, we need to ask ourselves, is this a laziness or a defiance issue? It could be. The answer could be yes. Or is there a bigger problem that I need to take care of as their teacher? Part of being a fantastic teacher is also being a detective. What skills is my child lacking? What skills have I not taught my child well enough that they're, not carrying over into this lesson? We have to make sure that we are doing our part. We cannot just be like, oh, well, that's just the way that this child is. That's the way that God made this child. And so I guess there's just no hope for him. Or think that parenting is a passive activity. Parenting is one of the most intense activities. Parenting is a verb. It's one of the most intense activities that you will ever engage yourself in if you are doing it well. But just pretending like the problem doesn't exist, or writing it off as this is this child's own personal struggle and it has nothing to do with me, or not asking better questions like, what is it that I can teach this child that will make understanding this concept easier? All of these things come back on us, which means that we need to do our job. So while the answer may be, well, our child just doesn't want to do this right now, a lot of times there's an underlying issue that we need to correct. We need to teach something in addition to, we need to give the child more practice in a certain area. We need to explain it in a different way. Sometimes, I don't know why I keep coming back to long division, but long division in our house is something that, it just takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. But sometimes if I am trying to teach a child long division, say, for instance, and the child is just not getting it, I'll ask my husband, can you come explain this? Because there's probably something happening here. I'm not explaining it in a way that they're understanding. So I'll either ask my husband to come and teach it, or I'll ask one of my older children, hey, could you come explain this to, so-and-so, he's having trouble. I don't think that I'm saying the right words to get through. And sometimes just having someone else explain it differently is enough. So all I'm trying to say is look further than just the temper tantrum and see if you can figure out what is really causing it. Shift number 7, separate drama-prone pairings. If you're new here, you may not know that I have 11 children. My children are ages 22 down to 16 months. And so there are some children in our family that their personalities just rub up against each other in a way that does not support peaceful homeschool all the time. So your inclination may be, well, then that means that they just need to spend more time with each other. And while that may be the answer sometimes, I don't actually believe that that's the best answer during school hours when you're trying to accomplish something major. So if you have 2 children that just rub each other the wrong way, separate them. Don't pair them up as partners. Don't sit them beside each other. Give them some space. This is obvious, but sometimes, as moms, we try to make things a little bit harder than they actually need to be. Now, do these children need to learn how to get along? Yes, they absolutely do. I'm just recommending separating that activity from schooling. Do that a different time. You could do that during chore time. You could do that during downtime. You could do it during sports, like whatever. But you are trying to accomplish something major that is complex enough on its own. You don't need to be navigating sibling relationships in the middle of all of that. Shift number 8, no more arguing or negotiating. Okay, so here's the thing. If you argue or negotiate with your children, all that you are teaching them is how to become a better arguer or a better negotiator. You're not teaching them to actually respect your authority. Now, I am someone who naturally enjoys a good debate. And so I have to be really careful about this because it's a little bit fun to me, but it's not beneficial. And so, if you find yourself constantly in negotiations with your children, or if you find yourself being argued with, then you need to reestablish your authority. And the way that you do that is you say, this is not up for discussion. If you persist in arguing, then you will lose the privilege to whatever. And then when the child starts arguing again, and they most certainly will, you immediately take that privilege away. You do not engage in the argument. If they persist after that, and they might, then you just take the next thing away until they stop. And sooner or later they will stop. But you do not participate in the argument because you are the authority. You do not need to argue or negotiate because you set the rules. So This is hard, especially if you kind of enjoy arguing and debating, but it is necessary, especially in homeschooling, because before you know it, if you start negotiating or arguing with your child, you could waste 30 minutes like that. And you don't have 30 minutes to waste. So start doing this. It may take a week or two to really sink in with your children that this is no longer up for debate, but if you remain firm, you will have so much less drama. So those are the small shifts that really will cut 90% of the drama in your homeschool if you are diligent and you apply them. You do not need to fight every battle. What you need is structure and calm authority. So if this video was helpful for you, the next step really is to just go ahead and grab that homeschool rescue plan. It's completely free. You can get the link in the description below. And these are really the exact steps that I use to completely rebuild my homeschool after years and years and years of floundering. Again, the link is in the description below.